everyone. Welcome to the Vegan Stew. It's Kimberly. I am starting the show and hosting the show. Lucky you. Thank you to VegKey, who is our sponsor for this week's talks. And prize packs for this month's contest have been graciously donated by Hodo Foods, Follow Your Heart, Cinnaholic, Revolution Gelato, Terraseed, Fabulous, Rebel Cheese, and VegKey. So head on over to virtualvegfest.com and enter your info into the contest tab so you can be entered into the wish pond to win an amazing prize pack from one of these very generous sponsors. So hello and welcome. Let me bring in, we've got a small stew crew tonight, but it's going to be awesome. So we've got Marla Rose from Vegan Street.
Hi.
And Kelly Kerr from Climate Healers. All right. So our topic tonight is eating out. Is it safe? I guess we could go a couple different ways with that. So we'll figure it out as we get into the conversation. Like, is it safe? Like, are we talking about cross-contamination? Probably, right? Are we still worried about being around like in large crowds and stuff at restaurants? I don't know. I guess we could touch on that too. But first, Marla, what's in the news?
Well, this was the news story that kind of drew most of my attention today. Was that there's a new study that was published in a journal called M as in Marla Bio by the Agricultural Research Sciences group. But basically the research showed that 8 to 10 grams of soluble fiber, healthy adults who consume that amount each day have fewer antibiotic resistant bacteria, viruses and fungi, and thus have healthier gut microbiome. And that's a buzzword that we hear more and more these days, the gut microbiome and how important that is to overall health. So it stands to reason that fiber is good for, because, I was talking with my aunt who's recently I don't think she's vegan, but she's much more plant-based. She said she had so normalized a constant state of constipation. It was just, that was just her normal. Like she never, like maybe a couple of times a week went number 2 and that can't be good. So anyway, the point is that there's more and more confirmation that eating high fiber plant-based diets are good for the microbiome, and it lessens our antibiotic resistance, which is so important in this day of heightened pandemics and that kind of thing that we're susceptible to. So not to say that it's going to give you a free pass, but we need everything working for us that we can get. So anyway, I thought that was a great story. You can read more about it on vegnews.com.
Thank you.
Sure.
That makes me think back to when I was a teenager. I went vegetarian when I was almost 21. Okay. So my teen years, I was not vegetarian. And we got to the point in my household where my parents were hiding the Pepto-Bismol because my stomach hurt every single morning when I woke up. And I find out like 8 years later, one doctor's like, "Oh, you probably have IBS and you're lactose intolerant," like we all are, right? But but I'd spent like all this time, like my stomach was constantly in knots. I felt like, I have to be near a bathroom at all times. So embarrassing for a teenager and a woman in her early 20s.
Sure.
And I started to think I noticed like, if I eat onions, my stomach gets upset. If I have lettuce, my stomach gets upset. But it was because I was eating so many animal products.
Yeah.
My stomach was already in flux. And then like what little fiber I did take in, my stomach was like, whoa,
yeah.
We've got to clean it all out.
Yeah.
And as I went vegetarian and started eating more than just pasta, because as we've talked about, right, when I went
Grilled
vegetarian, I
cheese.
had no idea how to cook, and so it was a lot of pasta covered in cheese. But once I started eating more fiber, I noticed that my stomach was better, and then when I finally went vegan,
Right.
um, it completely changed, getting dairy out, and then the amount of fiber I was taking in was so much more. It didn't wind up constipating me. It wound up regulating me.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
sorry to all the viewers if this is TMI about
Yeah,
Oh,
Kimberly,
that's more
but
TMI.
but I think
yeah.
so often people think, "Oh, fiber either is gonna stop me up or it's gonna upset my stomach," and
Uh,
they're afraid of it. And
right.
people are like so quick to be like, "Where do you get your protein, vegans?" And I want to always ask them, "Where do you get your fiber?" Because the
It's true.
fiber is so much more important. Our tummies need it so badly.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that about Pepto Bismol because I mean it's not funny, but like the joke with my mom is she always had like pink around her mouth, and I'm like, Mom, you're not supposed to drink that stuff, but so she would always be saying, "Oh, I ate something bad. I ate something bad." It's like there just isn't that much food poisoning in the world. There
Right,
isn't that much.
exactly.
Just, I've had food poisoning maybe once or twice in my life. Like I understand we're on different diets, but you're not getting food poisoning every day.
Right.
Or but the other thing I've noticed is a lot of times new vegans will, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, they'll post on local vegan pages like, "Hey guys, I'm a new vegan and I am going number 2 all the time. What is up with that?" And they're almost freaked out because they're so used, like, is something wrong with me? I don't like it. It's like, that's normal. But
Mhm. I remember I was in Moo Shoes in New York City, probably like 2002, 2003, I wanna say. It was very early in the
yeah.
2000s, and my favorite thing was that they had these stickers up at the register, and it said, "I'm vegan. Yes, I poop 5 times a day." And it was like little, like, poop pictures on it, yeah.
No, it's like it used to be a place where people would read, right? Or hang out for long periods of time. But it's like I'm in and out. I like it's kind of like there's no, like if you're trying to hide from the kids or want some alone time, hiding in the bathroom unless you're taking a bath is probably, as a vegan, is probably going to not be a good ruse to try to pull off. Kelly, do you want to talk to us about your number 2s?
I grew up with suppositories and mineral oil because I was always constipated as a kid.
Right.
Really, really bad. And I was really badly lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
And so it was it added to it. And even, I mean, I went vegan 8 years ago.
Mhm.
And like before that time, I used to do a lot of travel with my work. And I was
Mhm.
the same, like, I was so afraid to eat with my team,
Right.
to eat out, because I would have to immediately go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And it just added stress. And so, like, when I knew I was flying back the night before, like, it got to the point where I wouldn't even eat because between the stress and just everything, like, I would react, right? And
Yeah.
it just amplified it. And yeah, and just being like really badly lactose intolerant, which I personally think most of us are. Now I know if I have something that contains dairy, because I don't consume dairy, and if I react, like, I'm
Yeah.
confident that there's like some type of contamination with dairy in that product because
Right.
it's amplified 10 times now. So
Yeah,
if
because
anyone
you've
knows
been
that
away from it.
feeling of being lactose intolerant and the cramps and the everything, like,
Mhm.
it feels like death. Like, if I like I literally think I'm going to die if I
Yeah.
react,
Mhm.
if I have a cross contamination.
Yeah, that's bad. That's a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, that's yeah, I mean, I think that people tend to think of lactose intolerance or dairy allergies as being pretty mild, but I have friends who have a child who is it has a dairy allergy, and it's like you have to write off like at least a few days after exposure because it is such a serious allergic reaction, so, but yeah, I mean, I have often wondered, it's such a weird concept, but like, what a better world we'd be in if everyone just pooped regularly. Like what I mean?
Mhm.
Like how much more calm people would be, how much more relaxed people would be
Yes.
if they weren't walking around constantly constipated, or the opposite, always having diarrhea,
Mhm.
and not satisfying, it's yeah, I mean, that's why when I talk to people about going vegan, one of the first things I tell people to do before anything else is to try to give up dairy first, because I think most people immediately feel better,
Yep.
because it is such a common sensitivity or allergy. I think that you reap the benefits of it right away. So
Oh, just from like phlegm, like from joint pain,
yeah,
all of that was
all the
completely
inflammation
gone
stuff.
the
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
that I stopped consuming dairy.
Mhm.
And it's so addictive too, right? So then if you get over that hump and you can break free from that addiction, like letting go of the rest of the animal products is definitely easier.
Yeah, because cheese is with that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which most of us at this stage of, life, in the world, are not drinking big glasses of dairy milk, that we did, when we were growing up, or our parents were growing up. That was like so, just
Yeah.
that would be at the table always,
Mhm.
but more and more, I think, I don't even want a big glass of almond milk. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah,
idea of like
same.
a big glass of milk is not appealing. But there are a lot of people who think, well, I don't really, consume dairy, but they do eat cheese, and a lot of times just put a splash in their coffee, just a splash every day. But then you're continually, retriggering whatever the
Mhm.
systems are that are, reacting. So it's good to. I actually tell people when they're trying to give up dairy is to not even try vegan cheese for like that
Yep.
period, because their
Gotta
taste
reset your
buds are
palate.
right. Their taste buds are acclimated to dairy. It's not going to taste like dairy. And having accidentally had dairy years ago, after being vegan, it was put in a wrap or something, and I couldn't believe how much I thought that this was something I could never give up when I first went vegan. I was just like, oh my goodness, but it's so gross. It was so, I mean, not just for the ethical, but like, it was just like, it's a texture and just the scent and everything. It's just something that is not replicated in the plant-based world, and so it was icky, but
Mhm.
so I think you need a nice clean break before,
Yeah.
you know.
My husband's editing a documentary about the dairy addiction in India, and he's getting stock footage of like dairy products to put in, and I'm just looking at it, thinking all the, like and it grosses me out so much
It's really gross.
what we do with dairy to like appease our appetite. Like
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't even want that with vegan cheese, let alone like dairy.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When I went vegan, we didn't, I mean, there were like 2 brands, I think, or just 1, and it was so nasty, that we just learned to do without. We made everything with nutritional, like the stuff that people think that they're discovering now, nutritional yeast with cashews and potatoes and carrots and stuff like that, and they
Mhm.
blend it up. It's delicious, but like we were doing that in the '90s. Sorry, I don't mean to be like territorial, but that was our cheese. I'm not dismissing anyone who's moving, but I'm just saying, yeah, we did that, and it was delicious.
That's so true. Like mac and cheese is my absolute favorite comfort food. It was when I was a
Right.
child, and it is now. And yeah, I was making it with diet cheese and milk and whatever, and still putting Nooch and all that in it. But I'm still reacting, and I actually think it's the thickeners in a lot of the dairy products that I react to. We only do the potato and carrot cheese now, and I don't want it any other way. It's the best.
It is so good.
And like Nooch, and we even I even learned how to make like a miso cheese, like we're like just adding miso and some milk.
Oh, it adds such a depth of flavor.
And some nutritional yeast. It tastes just like a cheese sauce.
It really does.
Right? So there's so
It
many alternatives.
really does. And it adds that tanginess,
Yes,
right? That,
exactly.
like the depth of flavor. Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
So what do you think about moving into our topic? Because Kelly, you mentioned a few minutes ago about how when you've eaten something that has included dairy. So it's been contaminated. You didn't order it that way, but you know that it showed up. So I guess, how do we answer that question? Eating out, is it safe? What do you think?
I mean, I used to eat out a lot before the pandemic. We would eat, especially with our family, because our whole family's vegan that lives here. We would only go to vegan restaurants anyways, so there was definitely that reassurance.
Right.
And with my mom, so my dad passed a few years ago, and so my mom just likes to eat out a lot now, and so we managed to get her to eat at vegan like if we've been eating in a lot because of COVID. And we managed to get her to eat a lot of vegan restaurants, but sometimes like we'll go A&W and get the Beyond Burger. So like those are the times when there's that risk. So I try to minimize it as much as possible. And if I am going to eat at a place where it's non-vegan, it would only be like with a family member, and rarely, and it would be a place where I would, I wouldn't just go to some, like, I would go to a place where they know what being vegan means.
Right.
So be respectful in that sense. Right.
Yeah. I don't feel safe at places where they're looking at me quizzically, when I'm trying to, like, it doesn't feel very reassuring. And it seems like more and more places these days, like one of the things I do before I go anywhere that's not entirely vegan is, I think we all probably do this, is we go to their website and look at the menu and try to see if things are categorized as, vegan or not. And it's kind of interesting that this topic came up, because there's this iconic I guess hot dog place in Chicago called Portillo's. And I think it may be a national chain. I don't know, but there's a lot of locations. Anyway, a lot of people grew up on Portillo's. I've never had it for some reason, but anyway, they just recently released a vegan veggie dog with all the, the works on it and everything. And one of the things that I find, so my son and husband went yesterday and got it, and it's on a dedicated part of the grill. But one of the things that I found with places that have multiple locations, like TGI Fridays had the same issue, and even big chains like Taco Bell or whatever, they're not necessarily consistent across the board. Like, so like if, like, for example, one of the articles we read about this new vegan dog that's at Portillo's mentioned that the fries have beef tallow in them. But all these people were calling the locations and saying, is that true? And the places would say no. And some places said yes. So like, I think that's a real problem when these things roll out, and the restaurants so many times are unprepared for the kinds of questions vegans are going to have. And it's like, there needs to be better consulting. And I think so many people are like, well, just put this on the menu. I found a good product, not realizing all the depth that goes into it, Hi, Kristen. Hi, Patricia. Hi, Robin Lee. It's all of a sudden, but but yeah, it's an issue that it seems like places could do better with kind of getting their ducks in a row before they release products.
It also has a lot to do, I think, with like the employees that are there. Like,
Right.
if they're told change your gloves or something, but they're not, they're lazy, or they
Right.
might think it's funny if or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
you just never know, So there's that fear as well of, if they suspect you're vegan, are they going to think it's funny that they
Well, and this is me being annoying, but there's a bakery that's not far from us that has vegan options, and they just opened like a month or so ago. But when I have gone in the last 2 or 3 times and just I don't need to be buying vegan cupcakes or whatever, but I want them to know that there's demand. That I'm making the sacrifice for everyone. But whenever I go in, and this is maybe being ageist and but like there's always some teenager at the counter, and I'll be like, "Hi, so do you have anything vegan today?" And they'll be like, no. We have a gluten-free thing over here, and it's like, I don't want to be that person who's like, can I speak to the manager? But I do know that they don't know what they're talking about. So, it's like, yeah. So I think I get frustrated when restaurants don't kind of have it together in that realm. I'm more forgiving with little small independent places that just open, but a lot of times it's like this could have been resolved. Like just have the rollout be consistent, have it be figured out. So yeah, it's true, Susan. Somebody has to do it. I don't want to be that person who's on the receiving end of a smartphone that ends up getting doxxed because I'm being a jerk. I don't want to be that vegan. How about you, Kimberly? What are your thoughts on things?
So I would love if every time I went out, I got to go to a vegan place,
Right.
but that's not really reality yet.
Mhm.
Yet.
Mhm.
And before the pandemic, we ate out more, and like now we are not back in the swing of
Right.
that. But yeah, I try to be open to it because I feel like part of it is that we have to go to these places where there is risk that we'll
Right.
get something that has dairy in it, or the fries have been
Mhm.
deep fried with chicken
Right.
fingers. Um, and ask the questions and order the things so that there'll be more of those things on the menu, and
Yeah.
people at these places will become more familiar.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm like you, but in a different way. I'm putting myself out there to test
Right.
these things out, right? See how it goes. And, and so yeah, I don't worry I'm not so precious about it, I guess is
Right.
how I would say. Like if I'm going out with people, now if I was going out with vegan people, like we're all just going to find a vegan place,
Right. Right.
but if it's mixed company, then I'm willing to take the risk and
Yeah.
have an upset stomach.
Mhm.
I don't want to consume animal products,
Right.
obviously, right?
Well, we're just
But
not in the perfect world yet, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, and I accept that, and I want people to feel like veganism is not such a pain,
yeah.
you know?
Right. I kind of feel like we can't have it both ways. We can't have widespread availability of vegan options and only go to vegan restaurants. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
like I know there are a lot of people, and I don't blame them, who are not comfortable going to non-vegan restaurants, but I do feel like it shouldn't be a shameful thing to be putting yourself out there and just like cheerleading the vegan, because a lot of I have noticed that a lot of restaurants that are dabbling in it, like they're very genuine with their attempt, and they don't want to be slammed, and they don't, but I think they're really trying a lot of times. Sometimes the effort is, here, try it, or like it's like they're doing it with their hands tied and they're just like are resentful. But I think more and more, especially these days, places are like they're reading the writing on the wall that this is a viable, market, but also just that plenty of non-vegan people. Like, I mean, actually, it's interesting in the article and the quote about Portillo's offering this vegan thing. The person from Portillo said, our regular customers have been asking for a vegan option. They occasionally want to have a meatless dog. So, we shouldn't expect that our little 1.5% to 2% population is going to be driving this, but we want these to be delicious and consistent and, widespread, right? So we sometimes have to get into the realm of less comfortable. But yeah, but like I said, I do understand both ways. I don't think either side, whether you never go to a non-vegan restaurant or you only or you're comfortable going to non-vegan restaurants, I don't think either side we should be shamed, and I do understand both, but yeah, we're not going to be able to do a widespread vegan thing if we can't get outside of our little bubble.
And even with the vegan restaurants, like when I talk to, the staff, or if it's a small one, like the owner, who's driving their business aren't vegans either.
Right.
It's just people in general want to either, or they're curious, or they are trying to make a conscious effort to like eat less animal products. And like it's so easy now because the plant-based products have gotten better. So it's not like a restaurant going, I have to use tofu, or I got to try to make my own vegan meat, right? It's grab the Beyond, grab the Light Life, grab the whatever the brand is, right? So it's a lot easier for them to incorporate it into their menu.
Sure.
I think that's why we're really seeing an explosion. I mean, I know I'm in Toronto, we're really lucky, but like you see vegan not vegan restaurants, but people promoting that they have vegan options everywhere, painted on their windows, right? Like they want people to know that they're
absolutely, and they're proud of it. They're proud of what they've created. And I think there is a sizable segment of the population, especially kind of foodie oriented people, who look at vegan food, and I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing or neutral, but they think of it almost like an ethnic food. Like, let's go out for Italian tonight. Let's get Ethiopian tonight. Let's get vegan tonight. So I think we have to look at it like there are, like what you were saying, Kelly, there are a lot of people who just simply are curious. They like vegan food. They like the way their bodies feel after they eat it, So yeah, I mean, my thing is I always just want to applaud. I just want to applaud, vegan options, even if it's just like they're just dabbling in it. They're just starting in it. And we have an interesting thing here in Chicago. One of our most famous vegetarian restaurants is the Chicago Diner. It's owned, by people who are friends of ours. Now, they opened in 1983. Yeah, 83.
It's 83. That's their logo. Their logo.
Yeah, Meat Free 83, right? And they are iconic. Like, the founder of Twitter goes there and tweets pictures of his milkshake. Lady Gaga, who once wore a meat suit, goes there and tweets pictures. Like they're famous for their indulgent, beautiful vegan food, or vegetarian food. But the thing is that they started so long ago that vegan really wasn't on. Nobody was like, other than very, 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 very small circles, were talking about it. So I do see people kind of pushing back on the Chicago Diner because they're quote unquote just vegetarian. Now, everything on their menu these days is default vegan. So like you have to specially order if I want, dairy milk for my coffee. If I want, all their specials are vegan. You have to specially order things that are not. But the point is that only about 30% of their sales are vegan. So I think we trick ourselves into thinking that because I love my bubble, we all love our bubbles, but we tend to think that it's just much bigger than it is, you know?
That's really interesting what you said, Marla, about like, celebrities wanting to be seen in these restaurants. I think that goes a lot for like the 20 something, late 20s, or even like early 30, like under 30.
Right.
Because there's, if it's a really cool, posh place, like the fact that it's plant-based is irrelevant. Like people want to be seen there because
Right.
this high-end vegan restaurant, like we have this really high-end vegan restaurant in the entertainment district of Toronto. And I went to it, and I swear I was probably one of the second oldest next to my husband there. Everybody
He's
was
around, right?
sexy, and they dressed to the nines. They wanted to be there, looking their best. You could tell that they were like,
Glammed out.
just like this was an experience for them, and so like it was interesting to see.
We have come a ways from our granola origins, haven't we?
Here in my town, there's an Italian restaurant that they have a standard menu, a vegetarian menu, a vegan menu, and a gluten-free menu. And each of those menus are like 20 pages long. It's crazy. Their food costs are like sky high, I guess.
Mm.
But
Wow.
they actually advertise like it's on the side of the building. And like I live in kind of like one of the farmy areas of New Jersey.
Mhm.
So, vegan is not like, you don't think of vegans when you think of this area of New Jersey.
Mm.
But on the side of the building, it says, name of the restaurant, gluten-free, vegan. And it used to say whole wheat too, but I guess they realized that's not like a lifestyle. So they took that down. But it's wonderful that they have like, and they ask you when you walk in, like, which menu do you want? So they don't even just assume that you're there for the standard menu. They ask you which one you want. And then also being in New Jersey, diners, right? They're kind of our thing. And I love the idea that people could go. So if let's say I go to a diner with mixed company and I order a burger, which is a very common thing that people get
Right.
at diners, right? I get a burger, I get fries, and my burger looks pretty much like theirs does now.
Yeah.
It's not this like mash of vegetables where it's like falling off the
A
bun. And it's like
bean
a little
patty.
green, a little green pile on my plate. Um, and so like people would say, oh, I can go to a diner and eat kind of what I've been eating,
Yeah.
but it's not as unhealthy for me,
Right.
or it I don't have to eat animals every single time I go to a diner. And just to be able to show people how normal it
Right.
is just, I think, is so important.
Absolutely. And that's very important, I think, also for a lot of people who do business meals, business lunches and dinners and stuff. They just want to, they're not talking about their food. They're talking about a deal or whatever. So they just want it to be as seamless and easy as possible, So today it couldn't be easier. My mom at Native Foods, John, my husband John is in the comments. So my mom lived with us for the last couple of years of her life, and she, like as I explained before, the Pepto-Bismol, we were pretty much diametrically opposite in terms of how we looked at food and what we ate. But when Native Foods opened in Chicago, like their thing, I don't know if you guys have been there, but they've changed the menu a few times, but they have like, just giant burgers and wraps and just very comfort food oriented, delicious big things. But we had taken my mom so we were always trying to get her to eat vegan when we ate out, and occasionally we just it was her money, she can spend it how she wanted. But anyway, we went to Native Foods once near the beginning of when they opened, and she got like I think it's called like the Oklahoma bacon cheddar or something, like burger or something like that, just some big colossal thing. And she just said, oh, I'm so glad you're not making me eat at one of your restaurants this time. I was like, oh, I'm glad, I don't know if that's the dementia talking or what. But yeah, so it was easy to, there are certain places that it's going to be less stressful for someone who's, freaked out about weird, like,
Mhm.
there you go. I mean, I've done so many years of tabling and talking to people. There's, people will, I'm not trying to be like superior about it, but people will eat a carcass and freak out about tofu. So there's just like a weird disconnect on what that, I'm grossed out by vegan food. It's like, that's like peanut butter and jelly and pasta. But yeah, so but yeah, she did not like places that looked hippie or sprouty or and come to think of it, I prefer the other ones anyway. But we were able to trick her with that. Not intentionally, but she was just like, "Oh, thank you."
Well, I have a story about Chicago Diner that I think it's safe to talk about it now because it happened almost 8 years ago. I had just went vegan, and my husband wasn't vegan yet. We were doing a family trip, and we drove to Chicago. And I was the one that was eating at the non-vegan places, and
Right.
I had researched Chicago before, like we went there, and there was so many places I wanted to try, and we were just trying to accommodate everyone, but then I felt like I wasn't really being accommodated. Like we
Right.
drove there, and like my breakfast, like I don't even think that I could have had the oatmeal. I don't even think the oatmeal was right because it came with milk. Like I was having toast. Like I wasn't, I was just, I was just being the one that was accommodating. And
Right.
so I said to my husband, like, you can go with your parents, go where they want. They want to do their own thing. Like, I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to Chicago Diner. Like, I'm not going to be in Chicago and not go to Chicago Diner. Right. But they weren't good at like being in a city and just kind of navigating themselves, so they stuck with us. We were on the million mile, whatever the road is, mile, and so they were like, "Oh, Chicago Diner, oh yeah, we'll come there." So like, do we tell them that it's a vegetarian restaurant? Like, what do we do? Right? We're just like, I imagine like because I said it that they would have assumed that I meant that I was going somewhere where there's not going to be meat. We got there and open up the menu, meat free since '83, and as soon as
dun dun dun.
right, so I'm so excited, and we're trying to like get them all excited, and they've got what they want, the ribs, the pulled pork, like all these vegan things, meatloaf, so 3 of us got this heavy, like plant meat heavy meal.
Right.
And my father-in-law got a quinoa burger.
Oh no!
Wow.
And we were just like, I mean, I did not even eat quinoa burgers back then. I was like, no way, I don't eat quinoa burger, right? So, but we didn't know, like, so we got it, and so we all got our food, and he got his burger, and he took a bite, and he just like totally overreacted. He was just like, oh, it's so dry. We're like, well, put ketchup on it, like put something on it. No, I tried vegan food. I tried it. And we're like, well, have some of our food. Here's some meatloaf. Here's some ribs. Here's some meat. No, right? We're like, what do we do, right? I'm like, okay, I don't want this to wreck my experience, right? He ordered what he ordered. He could take account. And we were like, trying the whole night, right? And he was just kind of quiet about it, whatever. It was, I think, the last night before our trip, or this our second last night. And so we went back to their place afterwards, and he was so angry about it. He was stewing about it for days because he thought we had tricked him. Right? And we actually had a huge fight about it because he just felt so like tricked, and I was just like, where did you think we were going? Like,
that is such an over the top reaction.
So yeah, so I can look back at now and laugh, right? And it's so sad because it was such good food, right? It was just like, you just ordered the other one, you had a great experience.
Open your mind a little.
Exactly. So anyone watching, if you're taking like a family member out, like, don't start with a quinoa burger.
Yeah, don't let them order
like I
that.
said, I don't even want to eat that, you know? No, it's funny because it seems like the people who are the most kind of stodgy meat and potatoes types are the ones who are the least likely to try like seitan, and like they're like, nothing can taste like my beloved whatever, you know, so they go opposite, and I think it's just a mistake. Because
Well,
if you batter and deep fry something, it's going to taste good, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, like whether or not you want that as a consistent part of your diet is another thing, but yeah, quinoa burger, no. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
the experience was good in the sense that, like, it really kind of brought veganism into the family and the conversation of like, okay, well now, you know,
Right.
and my husband went vegan fairly shortly after, and then our
Mhm.
son, right? You know, so then like the tables kind of turned in our favor.
Right.
And so like there was a lot of like resistance, but then like, but now he's you know, he's better at trying the stuff because he sees that it looks just like his food, you know, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and so yeah, definitely. I guess we needed like that. I don't know if we needed experience in order for them to be more open minded. I don't know.
It's such a I have noticed a lot that some of the reactions to vegan food is just like so beyond what seems sane, you know?
For years, I always baked tons of cookies around Christmas time. When I was vegetarian, they, had eggs and butter in them. And then I decided I want to learn how to make these vegan. Like even before I went vegan, I want to
Right.
make these cookies vegan. And so I did, and they were amazing. And my family, like my mom wasn't even vegan yet at this point, and so I'm giving these cookies to all of these non-vegan family members, and all of them are like, wow, I love these. Like my brother was like, you got to make the vegan cookies, no more of the other cookies, make the vegan ones. And one of my aunts was over one night, and I offered her some cookies, and I said, I told her they were vegan, and she said, because everyone had been talking about how good they were. And I said, yeah, these are the vegan ones. And she was like, I don't want those because of what's not in them. And she was like dead serious. And she's never, she she didn't say it like she wasn't nasty, but she was very much like, no,
Yeah.
not gonna do it. And here's why, because of what's not in them. And like I love telling that story because it makes me laugh. But she
That's
really
so
misses out on these
weird.
amazing cookies.
Yeah. It's like I'm taking a stand. Okay.
Against delicious cookies?
Right. Like you can imagine somebody being like, "What's in them? Did you put like grass in them?" Or
Right.
but oh wow, that's wild. Yeah. Yeah, no, I have had that experience before of bringing, like back when I worked at an animal shelter, like, like the last couple of years I was there, I was vegan, and I would sometimes bring in brownies or baked goods or whatever, and people would love them, and then I would see, I like, it was such a interesting psychological thing, but I would see people being in the break room and like, oh, these are great, these are awesome, and then somebody would be like, oh yeah, Marla brought them, they're vegans. So then they'd be, it's like, that is not sane. That's not a sane response. Like,
No, not at all.
I'd like to understand like what's mentally is going. We need Melanie Joy to explain what happens when that like when
Right.
like how do you go from like, oh, this is delicious to
Yeah, like
I
it's
don't
in your
understand
mouth.
it.
Someone says, "Oh, that's
Yeah,
vegan." Are you gonna spit it out? Like, oh, suddenly it tastes different?
yeah.
right. I don't understand specifically the disgust response. Like there's nothing, like I do understand being a little bit weirded out by unfamiliar things or being defensive. Totally get that. Um, but in terms of disgust, why would that occur?
I
Like,
Right.
think it's a fear. It's like a fear that I might like something
right.
that is
But
plant-based,
so
and then
like
I have to
maybe,
admit to the vegan that
right,
we don't need animal products to survive. And then my
right.
argument is null there, and they're right.
Yeah. But so maybe fear and disgust are just cousins that are very close to each other. And when you're afraid of something new, it gets translated as disgust.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's weird because
Maybe.
there's nothing like, even if you look at it in any kind of like even just barely rational way, there's nothing that should elicit a disgust response. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do when what do you do, say, for example, if you go out with a group of people and you're at a non-vegan restaurant, but they have vegan items and you've checked all that out and everything. One of the things I like to do, because I found it to be really efficacious with influencing people, is I order first. And I order something, and I tend to, maybe say, oh, could I get that on the side or whatever? And a lot of times people will change their order or just immediately, oh, I'll have that. So ordering first is a good strategy for,
Ah,
for dining at non-vegan restaurants with non-vegans at groups and with big groups. So how about you guys? What do you have any strategies for dining out with non-vegans?
well, I'm definitely not ordering a veggie wrap or something like
Or
that.
quinoa burger?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't think of how many times I've brought a non-vegan to a vegan restaurant, and they've said after eating, well, first they're weirded out, right? There's always
Yeah.
that look as they bite, like, oh, this is actually kind of close, or they're like afraid, and but then they're like, oh wow, this is really good, and then they'll always say, I think I could be vegan if I could eat like this all the time.
I've had that
And
same thing
so
said to
my
me.
thing is like, I'm going to show you that you can eat like this all the time. It doesn't mean that I eat, impossible burgers at every meal, but that's
Right.
probably what I'm going to order if I'm out, if that's on the menu.
Right.
It's,
You want that to
never order.
be seen. You want, yeah,
Yeah. I'm
understand.
not getting the salad because I don't want to hear about vegans and salad, So I'll
Don't
eat a
make fun.
salad later when I get home if I'm really dying for one.
Right. How about you, Kelly? Do you have any specific kinds of strategies for dining out with non-vegans?
Trying to think of the last time I dined in a non-vegan
Right.
restaurant with non-vegans is probably with work. My a prior employer. And it was uh my boss at the time, he loved this one French place. So
Oh
um
God, French
he
food.
always wanted to go there. Yeah, it was disgusting, but it was very high end and fancy. And so I would just get vegetables, but it was done in the fanciest I've ever eaten a plate of vegetables ever, right? So it was very pretty. So just like the look of that, even though like, yeah, I would have loved to have had something more substantial, it looked so pretty that it would pique other people's interest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because they were
Yeah.
used to their boring plate. I mean, like
Yeah.
after a while, you don't appreciate what your
Yeah.
plate is if you go there all the time and it's what you're eating. So then when you see someone getting something, like, ooh,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like my hands were a little tied there, but the few times that I did, I was the same. Just order the one that looks the most appetizing, that
Yeah.
would look the most appetizing to the non-vegan,
Right.
and maybe like just ask some questions, like even if it's answers I already know, just to get like the conversations,
Mhm.
like, talking with the
For
the,
sure.
the staff, to
Mhm.
yeah. But I don't
Yeah.
have a specific strategy.
I would often, it's been a long time since I've been in this kind of environment, but like say like your aunt is coming to town and she grew up in your city and there's a steakhouse she always wants to go to, and you really want to see your aunt or whatever. I will often look at the menu and think like, how can I compose a plate that looks beautiful from sides? It's kind of like what Susan was saying, is that she'll order the vegetable sides. So I'll get like not just the baked potato, but I get a side of salsa, and I'll get, make sure that, there's this or that I can add to it, so it's just a beautiful plate when it comes together, because you don't want people to think that, I mean, I think it gives people a bad impression of vegan food, but it also can make people uncomfortable if they feel like you're not getting quality food. So, have you guys noticed? I don't know when the last time you were at a wedding was, but like, so I've been getting the vegan plate at weddings low these past 20 something years. Um, they have gotten so much better that when their plate, put down the plate in front of you, the caterer or whatever, all eyes are, I know that all, mileage is different, but I have noticed so much improvement in terms of like catered events, it's not always the case, but just in general.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. And I
Mhm.
think when we're thinking about, like, Kelly, when you mentioned your beautiful plate of vegetables, it made me think, and I don't know if I'd ever really paid attention to this before, but when you're eating animals, your plate is so
It's
drab. It's
so
brown and white, right? Especially at fancy restaurants. It's like a piece of animal flesh and potatoes, mashed potatoes,
right.
and like maybe like two asparagus or something like that, or a couple of
So
shaved
true.
carrots. Uh, but yeah, you get this plate and it's just so full of color
Yeah,
and different textures and this variety that's so different that even without thinking, like, oh, that's vegetables and I'm eating animals, I think people's eyes are drawn to it because
right.
we're drawn to that. Because
Yeah,
that is, I think, in our nature to
right.
want to eat that.
Right. Color contrast and what you call it, texture contrast, and just I think a lot of, like, I remember before by I think it's called By Chloe still in New York. It's got a few different locations, but before they ever opened, they like created lookbooks of what their menu items would like. It was just all like based on color and texture and stuff like that. I think the smarter places are really thinking of the plate as a canvas, and because they know everything's going to be Instagrammed or put on social media, it's like they have to think of that aspect of their menu now. It's like a chunk of steak is not all that appealing to look at. It's like even like when we're taking photos of seitan and stuff for something for Vegan Street, it's also not that beautiful. It's a chunk of brown, something that's like kind of a medium color, and it's just not very exciting. So that's the same case with meat. You have to, the things that make it beautiful are the things that are vegan.
Mhm.
So I told my husband to come on and write this, but he gave me a notepad to say this. He said, it's been observed that disgust is triggered by animal flesh and excretions, and plant food disgust is relating it to animal flesh, like okra.
Why would that be though? Like, why would that be? Like, I
He
just,
said,
I,
like,
I
for
just,
example, okra equals mucus.
what's that?
He said, like, okra equals mucus.
Oh,
Oh, well, I mean, there are certain foods that people don't like the texture of. Like okra
yeah.
is a big one, mushrooms are a big one.
Hmm.
And so that I understand. Like, I don't like the texture of X, Y, or Z. But like to be like, ooh, vegan brownies, like
Yeah.
that's just plain weird. And
Yeah,
I think
for
I
sure.
overanalyze it and try to figure out. Yeah, I agree with you, Robin
Oh, me too. I'm with you, Robin Lee.
Yeah,
Lee.
yeah.
No way to degross that stuff.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there's so many good plant foods. Why
Why
bother?
would you eat that? Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are people who like it. It's not. But yeah, a lot of it doesn't make sense to me. But I do agree with you both about kind of the need to put it out there and be receptive to the vegan things, offer constructive feedback, and be positive, and welcoming, because I think places are trying. Yes, Susan,
Yeah,
only
Susan's
fry.
got the right answer.
Yeah, I mean,
Just fry anything.
let's be honest here. How about
So,
some
so,
steamed okra, ladies? No. Mm.
so what's the consensus? Do we have one? Is it safe to eat out? Should we feel like there are like do we think there are parameters around what make it safe and what don't? What do you think, Marla?
I think, first of all, like I get a vibe from the website. I get a vibe from talking to people, whether they seem engaged. Like I'm not trying to like go in and become an inquisitor, but I do want to know that they take it seriously and that they're not just kind of lumping vegan, gluten-free, vegetarian. It's all the same thing, like I want to make sure they know what they're doing and they're talking about, and they're not just going in for a cash grab, kind of opportunity. So, my feeling is if they're genuinely trying, I want to be supportive of them and I want to offer constructive feedback. I found that like emailing later, if there was something that could be improved upon, is a good approach, rather than like say something to your server who may or may not have anything to do with, like, I don't mean like your food is wrong, like they put dairy on it. I just mean like, I don't know, something with seasonings or like the menu. Like what I've found is, take something that they're doing right and try to figure out how you can expand on that. So like to say like, I see you're offering a veggie burger, how about like putting that in a wrap, or how about trying it this way and that way, just so that you can expand options, because there are a lot of us out there who want to support you. So my feeling is I do support non-vegan restaurants who do it, but they have to be in good faith, and they have to show that they're listening and show that they care about our segment of the population, and that there's plenty of places that are trying, and so I'm not going to bend over backwards to give my money to a place that is half-assing it, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. I agree with you, Susan. I think we do have a right to ask questions and educate, I try to be as polite as possible, but that's just the way to do it. Sorry. Bless you. How about you guys?
Go ahead, Kelly.
Um, so I mean, again, I'm really lucky to live in Toronto, right? Where most restaurants that are doing vegan is, doing it right. And we have some like really big vegan companies here as well. So like, even if they're like, even like for vegan desserts, they're just gonna have like sweets from the earth. So they're like, they're making sure that what they're getting is good. Like you tried and true. Like obviously it's a well-known vegan business. They know the stuff is good. So they're not attempting to make like their own vegan desserts in which they're not really, right. They're just ordering it. So I don't think I've ever trying to think of like the last restaurant that I've had to like give any feedback to. It was probably years and years ago. Um, yeah, and if I'm going out with non-vegans, I tend to take them to the places where they really are doing it right. So from a is it safe perspective, it's safe in that I'm sure they're gonna have a good experience if they eat vegan food there, and
Right.
if they choose to, and then safe for me because the restaurant knows what vegan means.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to know that there's some level of literacy that they're, that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mhm.
I agree with you, and we're also lucky in Chicago. It's very widespread now. How about you, Kimberly?
Yeah, so I like Susan said, I love to ask questions and make sure that they get it at least a little bit, and then yeah, I'm willing to take a chance on a place and show them that vegan food is wanted and needed at their establishment. And sometimes if I really love it, I'll send them a message like
Yeah.
you had said, you send them a message when something could be better. I also, especially if they're just getting into it, if they've just added some vegan options and it
Mhm.
was really good, like I want them to know that not only was it really good, so great job, but also like now I'm going to tell more people
Sure.
about it because
Mhm.
now I know that there's a place that not only I could go as a vegan, but I can bring non-vegans too,
Right.
and we can all eat together and
Mhm.
enjoy, our time and our food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is such an important point. Is I think we often remember bad experiences and are trying to you know fix them or comment on them, but it's so important, and it's become so normalized in my life because we've been doing this for so long that I always make, like, if a place is really doing great stuff, I always make an effort to get the word out and to thank them on their social media and do a call out to them. I think that's super important because they need that positive feedback.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you. So I'll move you over and we'll close the show out. All right.
Nice to see everyone.
Bye. Okay. That was an awesome conversation. So I hope that you've learned something or you feel empowered to ask questions next time. Thank you, Susan. And thank you, everyone who joined and made some comments. Bye, Robin Lee. And I hope, yeah, that you feel empowered to ask more questions or maybe to bring your non-vegan friends to different places and where you can all eat and maybe one day convince them to join you at a vegan restaurant. We're always planting seeds. Never forget that. So have an amazing evening. I hope to see you on Monday for Fireside Chat with me. Wednesday, we're back with the stew next week. And the first Wednesday of the month, so June 1st, you'll have Coach Kayla. So come back, join us. We love to have you. Post in the comments. We want to know what you have to say. Have an amazing night. Thank you so much.